The green lights are changing each year. This year they had this really nice wooden frame and the lights going through, and so they're becoming really creative. The men will jog in the area of the green lights. The women will not jog. And the reason behind the fact that the women will not jog is because they're in the presence of non-mahram men, strange men. So in that case you will not jog. You will simply, if you have women folk with you, you will simply jog to the other side, wait, and then you'll wait for them to catch up with you. You will make your way to Marwa. When you arrive at Marwa, again, you stop, you make dua. Again, any dua that you want, and then you make your way. So back to Safa. On your way back to Safa, again, there's that area with the green lights where the men will jog, make their way back to Safa. Safa to Marwa is 1, Marwa to Safa is 2, Safa to Marwa is 3, Marwa to Safa is 4, Safa to Marwa is 5, Marwa to Safa is 6, and Safa to Marwa is 7. Right? It's not round trip. It's not a round, it's a single journey. It's not a round trip journey. And again, what do you do in between all of these? You simply continue to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any language, any book, whatever it is, but one remains engaged in a form of dhikr and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you've made it to Marwa, your umrah is complete. Once you've made it to Marwa, your umrah is complete, and the next thing one needs to do is get a haircut. Men, the preferred action for men is to shave their hair, halaq, that's the preferred action. Otherwise, make qasr. Again, the predominant opinion of the ulama is even if you make qasr and you shorten your hair, it has to be done from the entire head. And the reason I mention that is because all of a sudden there's this new age ruling that has now popped up where people just get a little bit chopped off on the back here and then they're done, they walk away. Right? That is not technically qasr. Right? No matter what kind of a haircut you get, it has to be the entire head. Either qasr, shortening the hair of the entire head, or becoming bald of the entire head. The next question is, well, I want to perform an umrah the next day or the day after. What do I do? It doesn't matter. You just have it shaved again. And you have it shaved again. Right? I know of people who've performed 6 umrahs in 6 days and had their head shaved each time. No, their skin didn't come off. Women, you will pretty much bunch your hair together and about an inch from the back, you will cut it off. You can't cut off your own hair. You're in ihram. Right? So you're going to have someone else do it for you. Take a scissor with you as well. You don't want to be running around looking for a scissor. Add that to the list in case you have it. But yeah, so take a scissor and then just cut it off. You're done. You're out of ihram. Right? Now, you can jump in the shower, get your head and shoulders and Pert Plus and whatever it is that you have out there and Dove soap and, take a nice warm bath. Faridun, have I missed anything that you may want me to cover?
No, I think it's...
Okay. While we are in Mecca, inshallah, we'll be visiting a number of sacred sites. The reward of praying at the Kaaba is the equivalent of 100,000 salah. So don't miss a prayer at the Kaaba. It will not make up for 100,000 prayers that you've missed, though. Okay? For people, no, you get the reward of 100,000. It won't make up for 100,000 that you've missed. So keep that in mind. Don't miss your congregational prayers at the Kaaba. A very common question that is asked is, we're going to be in Mecca for 3 or 4 days. Should I perform a maximum amount of tawaf or a maximum amount of umrah? The ulama are of both opinions. By the way, the reason I mention that is because there are, again, this whole new age. I don't want to be mean, I don't want to be too, but there's this, new thing, sort of fitna that has come out, if I may, that says, oh, when the Prophet went to Mecca, he only performed 1 umrah, so when you go to Mecca, you can only perform 1 umrah. No, you can perform as many umrahs as you want, you can perform as many tawafs as you want. Which one is better than the other? The ulama have differed on this. Some have mentioned one over the other. Though, the ruling, of course, these are 2 separate actions. As far as just a tawaf, I've performed my umrah, I'm going to the Kaaba, I want to do a tawaf. You don't put on your ihram for tawaf. You're just simply in your clothes. Okay? You walk in to the black stone, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, kiss. 7, no ramal, right? No jogging like a warrior because there's no sa'i afterwards. There's no exposing the right, you don't rip your sleeve off and say I got to expose the right shoulder. No, simply Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, kiss. 7 circuits around the Kaaba, kiss the black stone, pray 2 rak'ahs. That's 1 tawaf. You can do a tawaf. 7 circuits consists of 1 tawaf. You can do a tawaf for yourself. You can do a tawaf for a family member who's alive. You can do a tawaf for a family member who has passed away. It's all in the intention. You don't even have to say it with your tongue. Ya Allah, I'm making this tawaf for my... No, you don't have to do that either. Simply, in the intention, make tawaf. Tawaf is very easy. By the way, wudu is required for tawaf. Wudu is a requirement for tawaf. If one is to break their wudu, and they have completed less than 4 circuits, they need to start over again. And if you have completed 4, and you're on your 5th, 6th, or 7th circuit, then in that case, you will make wudu and then begin from where you left off. If you are making tawaf, and the prayer time comes in, or the jama'ah begins, you simply do the prayer and continue right from there. You don't have to go back to the beginning of the circuit and start all, when you're making tawaf, Allahu Akbar, Allah, the iqamah goes. Sometimes, when you're making tawaf, the adhan goes, you just keep on going. It's actually quicker once the adhan goes, because people line up to make their prayers and you just kind of zoom. It's like a zoom, zoom, zoom. You just kind of, and then the iqamah goes, and like when the iqamah begins, you're still continuing, you know what I'm saying? And then when the mu'adhin says, La ilaha illallah, you just quickly find a space, drop your bag, Allahu Akbar. And then there's a whole art to this, it's a lot of fun. And then as soon as the prayer is over, you just simply continue your tawaf from there. Right? The same case with sa'i. Umrah. Umrah is a little different. We didn't cover one portion, and that is the miqat. There are certain areas that the Prophet ﷺ designated that if one were to arrive into Makkah, if one were to arrive into Makkah, they would come into the state of ihram prior to passing over the miqat. That's why if you recall, for those of us that have been, when we come from Medina Munawwara, we put on our ihram right outside Medina Munawwara at Dhul Hulayfa, right? That's one of the miqats. So there's a number of miqats that the Prophet ﷺ has designated. As far as if you happen to be in Makkah and you want to perform another umrah, we need to go outside of what the miqat happens to be, outside that boundary. And that place happens to be a place called Masjid Aisha, also known as Tan'im, right? Or Masjid Umrah, or a number of names for it. What people generally do, or what people can do, or they would do, is take their ihram, get into a taxi, go to Masjid Miqat, right? Put on their ihram, pray 2 rak'ahs, make the intention, say labbaik, come back, go to the hotel, go all the way upstairs, leave your clothes there, come all the way back down, go to the haram, and begin your tawaf. That in and of itself is a journey. So the easiest way to do it is take a shower and put on your ihram in your hotel, go down to the cabbie, and tell the cabbie that, hey, I want to go to the Masjid Umrah and come back to the Haram. And so when you get to Masjid Umrah, all you have to do, you're already in wudu, you just simply get up, pray 2 rak'ahs, make the intention, say the labbaik, you come back into the cab, straight back to the Haram, and you begin your Umrah. And then you're done with your, again, Umrah, 7 circuits around the Kaaba, Safa to Marwa, and so on and so forth. One thing that I forgot to mention is that in the 2 rak'ahs that one prays prior to one's ihram, the sunnah is to recite Surah Al-Kafirun in the 1st rak'ah and Surah Al-Ikhlas in the 2nd rak'ah. Because one has not yet entered into the state of ihram when you're praying those 2 rak'ahs, because after those 2 rak'ahs you make the intention and you say the labbaik. If the men were to cover their hair with a kufi or one end of the ihram, that would be permissible. Right? Because after the 2 rak'ahs, you make the intention and you say labbaik and enter into the state of ihram. Okay, just give me 1 second. What time is Maghrib? Yeah, so someone just remind, how about when we are in ihram, we aren't supposed to pick anything like plants or hurt anything. Yeah, so one of the requirements of ihram is no hunting, no animals. You can't pull out leaves, plants. You can't do any of that either while one happens to be in the state of Haram. What time was Maghrib again?
7:30.
Oh, mashallah, we got 15 minutes. We're going to get done, inshallah. And then I'll take all your questions after Maghrib. Madina Munawwara. Very, very, very simple in that sense. There's a very famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man zara qabri ba'da mamati faka'annama zarani fi hayati. Whosoever visits my grave after my death is as if he has visited me while I was alive. And then there's a number of poetry that poets have mentioned in regards to visiting Madina Munawwara. But if there's one thing, and I'm just trying to make it to this one slide, there's one thing that you want to keep in mind when we go to visit the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we are visiting the King of all kings. There's no one greater than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Had it not been for the Prophet alaihi salatu wasalam, only Allah knows where humanity would have been and where you and I would have been. Everything that we find in life, when we talk about the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah and the adab and akhlaq, all of this is because of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah honors us by allowing us the opportunity. One shouldn't be arrogant or proud over this visit. One should be humble that Allah has allowed for us, and Allah allows us to be in the vicinity of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so close to in the proximity of the Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam, that he allows us to stand there and allows us to say assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, knowing that when we make that salam to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he alayhi salatu wasalam, as is the aqidah of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that he's alive, he sees us and responds to us. He sees us, and I got to travel with a teacher once, and he just stood there making salam. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, turn to 20, 30. After a while, you kind of like start getting restless, And he left from there when he was, in fact, done at some point, and said, how could you leave when you know that at your every salam, you're getting a response back? How could you say, okay, it's time for me to go? Because if you're leaving, that means you're not wanting a salam back from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I was reading a story of someone not too long ago that when they arrived at the Qabr Mubarak of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, that they were perspiring, right? They out of fear, and they were shaking and shivering that Allah has allowed me to be here. So close proximity, like we're within literally feet of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And that's such a beautiful thing. And so, this is it's a very, very big thing. When we arrive, we should always try to fulfill the sunnahs of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but especially when we arrive in Madina Munawwara, right? Try to on our journey to to Madina Munawwara. Increased salutations on the Prophet sallallahu. In fact, begin your salutations. Increase them from now onwards. Increase them from now. Even if it's 10 times in the morning and 10 times in the evening, just 10 times. Just 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening. Whatever salat ala Rasul that we know, whether it be the one that we do in our salat. If anything, just say sallallahu alaihi wasallam 10 times. Right? The smallest form of praise of the Prophet alayhi salam is sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening. On our way to Madina Munawwara, when we arrive in Madina Munawwara, the sunnah is to make sure that we're visiting the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're looking our best. We're smelling our best. We're on our best behavior. We're on our best character, and then to visit the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's just a few things I wish to mention. One specifically for the brothers, as we come around the grave of the Messenger, just imagine this area to be that of the graves of the Prophet alayhi salam, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar. The Qibla is in this direction. Okay, so you're facing the Qibla. The Prophet alayhi salam is lying here. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is lying here. And then Umar radiallahu anhu is lying here. the correct method, a lot of people want to be up close in the front to do this. The closer you are, the quicker the cops want to shove you out. And so the further back you are, the more calmer it is. You don't have to be directly in line with the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, you know what I'm saying? You can be just in that sort of general vicinity, to be on your best behavior. Salutations on the Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. Convey salams on behalf of people that have asked you to convey salams on their behalf. Once you're done with that, you move over. And by the way, in Makkah, while we're making tawaf, when you have your bag with you, you'll most probably have your slippers and everything with you. When you put in your slippers, take out your dua books. You don't want to have your slippers and your dua books in the same bag at the same time. But when you go to visit the Messenger ﷺ, don't have no bag hanging around your shoulder. Don't have your slippers tucked in. Just make salam at the grave of Nabi ﷺ, and then one step over, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, one step over at Umar radiallahu anhu. Now what happens is, it's traffic control for the right reason. Everyone gets pushed out from this door. But if you're a little further on the back, the most correct adab is to go back to the grave of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, make salam to him, and then go back to the grave of the Messenger ﷺ, make your final salam to him, and then walk away from there. And then there are people who will not even walk with their backs behind the grave, with their backs at the grave. They'll walk in the up, and backwards until they are out of the vicinity of the Prophet ﷺ's grave. The other thing you want to keep in mind is that for women, you will not be able to get to this area. There's a number of times during the day in which you get to come close to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. But generally, I've heard from my teachers, one of the best places that the women can make salam from with peace and dignity, generally anywhere in Medina Munawwarah. One of the most beautiful things, and a memory that I have, is of a cabbie who was driving around with him in Medina Munawwarah, and he saw the green dome. We were so far, he says, Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. I just put things into perspective for me. Right? That subhanAllah, look, he was able to see the maqam of Nabi alayhi salam, and he made his salam from here, out of love. Right? And so we keep that in mind. But as you walk out and you walk up, there's that wall outside, right underneath which is the green dome. If men, women just stand outside there and make salam as well, there's no harm in doing so. Right? It's very quiet, again, from wherever one may be. Next to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, to the right of it, as you're facing the Qibla, the Prophet so where the Prophet ﷺ is buried was the hujra, the room of Aisha radiallahu anha, and then the Prophet ﷺ's mimbar was right here. So the Prophet ﷺ mentions, there's a hadith, "Ma bayna bayti wa mimbari rawdatun min riyad al-jannah." Between my house and my mimbar is the garden from the gardens of Jannah. It's a sort of a light green colored carpet. If you're able to make it in there, just as when you saw the Kaaba and you spent all your time making dua, that's a place to make dua. You're in Jannah. Right? You're in Jannah. The only, Bora Bora is not paradise on earth. Okay? The Caribbean and the Bahamas is not paradise on earth. Paradise on earth happens to be a place in Medina Munawwarah, which is a few hundred square feet. Right? That is paradise. And if you can make it there, there's no better vacation, there's no better time spent than being there. Right? So, again, putting things, you have to value this though. There's people who will go to Medina Munawwarah and spend all their time in mall shopping. There's people who go to Medina Munawwarah to buy gold. There's people who, but just, you're in the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. The area, in terms of its width, maybe about this much, maybe a little less, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, from here.
Yeah.
From here onwards, maybe a little less, about 7-8 rows. Half of that is cordoned off for the women 3 times a day. Now, in order to get all the way there, is that an alarm clock or is that the actual adhan? Oh, okay, that's fine. Oh no, that's fine. If the adhan is called generally, you should become silent. So, the adhan for prayer, not on a clock though. Yeah, so half of the area is closed off for women. If you can't make it there, don't worry. Because the last thing you want to do is be in the masjid of the Prophet, run, scream, push. Wherever you are, just stand and send your salam from there. Wherever you are and say, Ya Allah, if I had been given the opportunity to be up close, I would have made my dua from there. I'm going to make my dua from here. So keep that in mind. There's an area, only the men have access to this, which is probably about a little larger than this, but in terms of its height is about this much. Okay, it's called the Suffah. Some of the companions, the Ashab al-Suffah, the companions of the Prophet would live there. Abu Hurairah used to live there, for example. And it's very easy to get there. If you get on there, pray 2 rak'ahs and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of these things we will cover when we happen to be there, but I just sort of wanted to cover this briefly. Again, in Medina Munawwara, we'll visit the graveyard. Is that the Iqamah?
Yeah.
Oh. Adhan or Iqamah?
Azan.
Okay, let's go over. Inshallah, we'll come back. I'm not going to speak after this. After this, I'm just going to take your questions.
Okay.
So the time we're going to spend after this is inshallah going to be taking your questions.
When we come back, inshallah, we have refreshments.